Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a divorce story that'll break your heart and lift it back up. Ever wonder how you survive when your world falls apart? I'm Jessica, 34, and 6 months ago. My perfect life shattered. I had it all: a cozy Denver apartment, a sweet 4-year-old son, Ethan, and a husband, Ryan, who I thought loved me. Then, one rainy night, he came home and said, "I'm done." No warning, no fight, just those words. Cold as the storm outside. I stood there, clutching Ethan's toy truck, as Ryan packed a bag and left. Divorce papers arrived a week later, and my fairy tale was over. I felt like I'd failed at marriage, at love, at everything. How do you rebuild when you're drowning in pain? That's my story. And it's raw, real, and full of lessons. Stick with me to see how I clawed my way back. The days after were a blur of tears and shock. I'd wake up, expecting Ryan beside me, but the bed was empty. Ethan kept asking, "Where's Daddy?" And I'd mumble something about work, hating the lie. Our apartment, once warm with laughter, felt like a tomb. I couldn't eat, barely slept, and my job as a marketing assistant suffered. Friends tried to help, but their pity made me feel worse. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back, hollow eyes. No spark. The divorce wasn't just a legal split. It was a wrecking ball through my identity. I was a mom, a wife, and now, what bills piled up? And Ryan's texts about custody were curt, like I was a stranger. I'd built my life around us, and now I was alone, wondering if I was enough for Ethan, for myself. The pain was suffocating, but deep down, I knew I had to fight for him. For me, the loneliness after Ryan left was a beast I couldn't tame. I'd put Ethan to bed, his little snores filling the silence, and then it hit a crushing, empty ache. Our Denver apartment, once alive with movie nights and Ryan's bad cooking, felt like a museum of a life I'd lost. I'd scroll through old photos on my phone, torturing myself with our smiles, wondering where I went wrong. Friends invited me out, but I'd make excuses: too tired, too broke, too broken. At 34, I felt like I'd missed my chance at happiness. I'd always been the cheerful one, the planner. But now I was a ghost, drifting through days without purpose. I'd catch myself staring at Ethan's drawings, thinking, am I enough for him? The doubt was relentless, gnawing at my self-worth. Work was no escape. My boss noticed my distractedness, and I overheard a co-worker whisper, "She's not handling the divorce well." It stung. But they weren't wrong. I'd forget deadlines, fumble presentations. My confidence shot. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, replaying Ryan's "I'm done," searching for clues I'd missed. I stopped wearing my wedding ring, but my finger felt naked, like I'd lost a limb. I tried joining a gym, hoping sweat would drown the pain, but I'd see couples laughing and feel like an outsider. Everywhere I turned, I was reminded of what I'd had and what I wasn't anymore. I wanted to scream, to feel anything but this hollow loneliness. But Ethan's morning hugs kept me going, a tiny spark in the dark. I didn't know how to rebuild, but I knew I had to try. If only for him. The financial strain of divorce hit like a tidal wave, threatening to pull me under. My marketing assistant's salary barely covered our Denver apartment's rent, let alone Ethan's daycare and groceries. Ryan's child support was minimal, and he was late, half the time. claiming his new job didn't pay enough. I'd sit at the kitchen table, calculator in hand, juggling bills like a bad magician. The electric bill, or Ethan's new shoes, groceries, or car insurance. Every choice felt like a betrayal of the life I wanted for my son. I stopped buying coffee, cancelled subscriptions, and sold my old dresses online. Each sale a small stab to my pride. I dreamed of a cozy home, maybe a vacation someday. But now, I was Googling how to budget on one income at the worst was the fear of losing our apartment. The landlord raised the rent, and I panicked, imagining Ethan and me in a cramped, unsafe place. I took on freelance work, writing ad copy at night, but the extra $200 a month didn't stretch far. I'd hide the stress from Ethan, smiling as we played with his toy trucks. But inside, I was crumbling. My savings were gone, drained by lawyer fees and moving costs. I felt like a failure, unable to give Ethan the stability he deserved. One night, I found an old photo of Ryan and me at a fancy dinner, carefree. I tore it up, angry at the life we'd planned and lost. The financial hole was deep, but I couldn't let it swallow us. I needed a plan, a lifeline, anything to keep us afloat. Ethan's giggle was my only anchor, reminding me I had to fight. No matter how broke or scared I was, co-parenting with Ryan pushed me to my breaking point. Ethan was only 4, caught in the crossfire of our failed marriage. We'd agreed to split custody, but Ryan was unreliable, late for pickups, missing weekends, leaving me to explain to Ethan why Daddy wasn't coming. I'd hold him as he cried, my heart shattering, hating Ryan for breaking his trust. When Ryan did show up, he'd undermine me, letting Ethan stay up late or skip homework, saying, let him be a kid. It wasn't about fun. It was control, a way to paint me as the strict one. I'd bite my tongue, not wanting to fight in front of Ethan. But the tension was a knot in my chest. Drop-offs were the worst. Ryan's new girlfriend sometimes in the car. Her presence a silent jab. I felt like I was failing Ethan, unable to shield him from the chaos. One night, Ethan asked, why don't you and Daddy live together? I froze, mumbling about grown-up choices, but his sad eyes cut deep. I started doubting myself. Was I selfish for not trying harder to save the marriage? Ryan's texts about schedules were cold, like I was a co-worker, not the mother of his child. I tried setting boundaries, like sticking to a pickup time, but he'd shrug them off. The stress bled into everything: work, sleep, my patience. I snapped at Ethan once, over a spilled juice, and cried harder than he did, hating the mom I was becoming. I wanted us to be a team for Ethan, but Ryan's inconsistency made it a battle. I felt alone, juggling parenting and pain, wondering if I'd ever find balance. Ethan deserved better, and I was desperate to give him that. But I didn't know how. Therapy was my lifeline, a chance to untangle the mess inside me. I started seeing Dr. Ellis, a kind woman with a knack for asking questions that cut deep. At first, I just cried, spilling the pain of Ryan's betrayal and my crumbling self-worth. I'd sit on her couch, clutching a tissue, saying, I'm not enough for Ethan, for anyone. She didn't coddle me. She pushed me to dig into why I felt that way. Slowly, I saw it. I tied my value to being Ryan's wife, the perfect mom, the one who held it all together. Divorce stripped that away, leaving me raw. But Dr. Ellis helped me see the strength beneath. "You're still Jessica," she'd say. And I started to believe her. Each session peeled back layers. I talked about my fear of failing Ethan, the guilt over snapping at him, the shame of struggling financially. Doctor. Ellis gave me tools, breathing exercises, journaling to manage the panic. I wrote about my old dreams, like writing for a living, and realized they weren't gone, just buried. Therapy wasn't a fix-all. Some days, I still felt like a fraud. But I began to see myself differently, not as a broken ex-wife, but as a woman who'd survived. I started smiling at Ethan's jokes again, feeling lighter. One day, I looked in the mirror and saw a spark in my eyes. Faint but real. Therapy was teaching me I was enough. Not because of Ryan or even Ethan, but because of me. That truth became my anchor, and I held it tight, ready to build on it. A new career lit a spark I hadn't felt in years. In therapy, I'd rediscovered my love for writing, something I'd shelved to be Ryan's wife and Ethan's mom. On a whim, I applied for a content writer job at a small Denver startup. The interview was nerve-wracking. My resume had gaps, and I felt like a rookie at 34. But I poured my heart into a sample piece, and they called back, I got the job. The pay was better than my marketing assistant gig, enough to ease the rent stress. More than that. It was mine a chance to create, to be Jessica, not just Ethan's mom or Ryan's ex. I'd come home from work, tired but buzzing, eager to tell Ethan about a story I'd written. The transition wasn't easy. I had to learn fast, juggling deadlines and Ethan's schedule. Some nights, I'd work late, laptop glowing while he slept, doubting I could keep up. But every published piece felt like a brick in a new foundation. My co-workers didn't know my divorce story. To them, I was the writer with a knack for words. That freedom rebuilt my confidence. I started dreaming again. Maybe a blog, maybe a book. Ethan noticed the change, saying, "You're happy. Mommy?" His words hit deep. The job wasn't just money. It was hope. Proof I could carve out a life that didn't revolve around Ryan. I still had bad days, but now I had something to hold on to. A purpose that felt like a lifeline pulling me toward a future I could love. Co-parenting with Ryan started to shift after months of strain. I was tired of the battles, late pickups, ignored schedules, Ethan's confusion. Therapy had taught me to set boundaries. So I asked Ryan for a real talk. No lawyers, just us. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground, and I laid it out. Ethan needs us to be better. I expected defensiveness, but Ryan looked worn, his eyes heavy. He admitted he'd been struggling, adjusting to his new life, and hadn't realized how much it hurt Ethan. For the first time, we talked like parents, not enemies. I suggested a firm schedule Wednesdays and every other weekend for him, and clear rules, like bedtime consistency. He nodded, saying, I want to do right by him. It wasn't perfect overnight. Ryan slipped up once, forgetting a pickup, but he apologized, a first. I stopped reacting with anger, focusing on Ethan's stability. We used a shared calendar app, and slowly, drop-offs became less tense. Ethan started smiling more, telling me about his weekends with Daddy, without that wary look. I even met Ryan's girlfriend, awkward, but civil, and saw she wasn't the enemy, just part of his life now. The talks were tough, peeling back old wounds, but they built a fragile trust. I still had to remind Ryan about school events, But he showed up, and that mattered. Co-parenting wasn't about liking each other. It was about Ethan. Seeing him thrive, drawing pictures of Mommy and Daddy's team, gave me peace. I'd fought for this balance, and it was worth every hard conversation. The ashes of my old life had settled, and I stood stronger than I ever thought possible. My Denver apartment, once a reminder of loss, was now our home. Ethan's drawings on the fridge, my laptop humming with new stories. Therapy had rebuilt my self-worth, teaching me I was enough, not just for Ethan, but for myself. My writing career wasn't just a job. It was a passion, a spark that grew into articles published under my name. I'd even started a blog, Divorce Diaries, sharing my journey, connecting with others who'd felt that same ache. Ethan thrived. His laughter louder, his trust in me a quiet victory. Co-parenting with Ryan wasn't perfect, but we'd found a rhythm. Putting Ethan first. I looked at the woman in the mirror, 34, a single mom, a writer, and saw someone fierce, not broken. I still had tough days, moments of doubt, but they didn't define me. I traded a fairy tale for something real, a life I'd built, from pain, love, and grit. One evening, Ethan hugged me and said, "You're my hero. Mommy, that was my hook, my truth. I'd survived divorce and found empowerment." What's your story? Have you rebuilt after a split? Share below. And if this moved you, like and subscribe for more raw, real tales of life after marriage.